Hi. I'd like to talk about a piece that Streb did with two cement blocks. This was premiered, it was commissioned by Jazz at Lincoln Center and was premiered in 2004 when they opened Winston Marsalla's new building. And I think that I was one of the artists who were commissioned. My composer, because it is Jazz at Lincoln Center, was Joe Chambers. He's a percussionist, and we had a beautiful conversation at the beginning. He came in and he goes, "So what is this about?" And I go, "Well, it isn't about anything besides these cement blocks that I found." And they, mostly now if you go ahead and get a cement block, it just has two holes in it. These cement blocks were heavy duty, and they had three smaller holes in the block itself. And they transmitted the issue of weight. They were heavy. And the faker blocks, they're still cement blocks, granted, but with just two holes, and they're large holes, you have a lot more air visually looking at them than you have some concrete. And they swing differently. Something that's really heavy takes to the air, whether it's just falling or whether it's swinging, in a completely different way than something that's quite light. It just doesn't have the impact that something very weight-bound does have. And you can see bigger people who are falling from 30 feet, 15 feet, or 10 feet. They just land harder. So it's somehow a more, I think, exaggerated physical effect. And when Joe Chambers said, "Well, what is the theme to your piece?" I go, "Cement blocks, swing, the periodic issue of how long it takes, how their weight manifests with the swing, where we can be, that they're not, but how close could I get to that intersection that would not be okay to get scraped by a big cement block, a very heavy one." And he was perplexed a little, but we work together really quite joyously. And I think I am a percussionist. I think I land hard. We use our body. We change our weight of support, which might manifest in a percussionist to, the temporality, like when he hits this particular instrument or that with his percussion instruments. How long do they resonate in the air once they make their sound? How close do you put them together? Do you have more than one? I know nothing about it. I told him I thought music was the true enemy of dance, and I thought he didn't understand that. But I feel like, well, it worked out. And I, of course, rolled downstage to see if this was even possible. Could you roll fast enough as a body to get out of the way of a swinging cinder block? When I was alone in the studio at Slam, I hung them up, and I wanted one of the blocks to be an inch from the ground when it was hanging, and the other one perhaps to be maybe 6 inches above that one. When these blocks swung, they had a different period. The amount of time it takes them to go the entire destination for a swing with a particular length, and then to come back again. And I thought, well, as I was experimenting just with my own body, I thought, well, let me see if I can roll as fast as zip goes. Hold that up, and then I wanted to see if when they let it go and it started to swing, I could land here on the table and roll just enough so that I'm beyond the middle before it starts to go up again. Because if I intercepted it at the middle, there would have been no room for my body, whether I was on my stomach or my side. When it was swinging, it was just so beautiful. It's so true to what its materiality is, that I knew there was some. And then if I had that one block there and had a body length between where I put the upstage block, like this, and that block was just 6 inches off the ground, just enough to be sideways there, but also enough room between them to have a body be flat on their stomach, or two bodies to be flat on their stomachs. But because their radii were different, they'd start to swing. You could either let them go from the same stage side, stage right, stage left, at the exact same moment, and start to see how the iteration of their swing would get them off kilter. And the trueness of that, I've never been able to signal time in that way. These blocks were my musical instrument. just at Lincoln Center, I drew the pathways of all 6 dancers on the ground, and each one on a piece of paper for the whole dance, which was long. They drew their pattern, their floor pattern, their pathways, and all of them then got painted onto this beautiful marley floor that as the dancers were running, we had a projection overhead that then was put onto the upstage wall, the proscenium wall, and as they went, when you saw the projection of the overhead, Erin Henderson did this beautiful effect where as the video was going, the pathways started to accumulate. So I wanted people to understand where we were specifically. It wasn't just over here, over there, let me wander over here, I'm going to go downstage, upstage. Because of the blocks and because of the pathways being so legislated, I wanted to make a subject out of where we went. For as long as I could afford projection, I use it, because otherwise sticking your action on a stage completely flattens it. It doesn't have the essence of really the dimensionality or the point of view, even though the more classic audiences are in the seats and looking at a very flat, squared off image. And that certainly doesn't give all the information that is necessary to do an action piece inside in those circumstances. Let me say that Michael Caselli designed the set, and Heather Carson, both of them I worked with for many, many years, and Heather had put spotlights at the top of the cable, and they shone down so that the bricks were illuminated, the cement blocks were illuminated. It was so beautiful. And so those cement blocks were part of the pathway. So you saw the dancers and where they went, but those cement blocks were really a big part of what was being inscribed upstage in the video. It was all immediacy, it was all necessity. You had to obey the pattern of these blocks in their nature. And then the idea would be, as time went on, would these blocks, the dancers manipulated the blocks. And it was really, in my mind, one of my most successful pieces, but very formal. There was nothing surprising that happened really during the whole show, except for why are you dancing with 2 cement blocks swinging all over the place.